Hi, it's Roger McDonald, and it is my very great pleasure to give you a special talk today about a topic which is very close to my heart, which is absolutely going to blow your mind. It's called The Map is Not the Territory. Now, just a little bit about me. I'm Roger McDonald. I'm an accredited EDISC practitioner, mindset and success strategist, metadynamics practitioner. If you want to change your life, work, or business, I'm the man to help you change all those things, because I've studied all the latest and greatest information and knowledge and wisdom about how to create better human beings. So what I do is what I'm passionate about. So I'm going to teach you something foundational today, which is called The Map is Not the Territory. So how are you feeling today? We're going to be chatting about some really great ways to assist you to understand this concept called the map is not the territory. And if you've always wanted to understand why different people think in different ways, then you're really going to enjoy this. So let's get a feel for how it works. Before we get started, I want to congratulate you for committing to learn more to help you in your life, work and business. They say in life you're either green and growing or ripe and rotten. So when you're learning, you're green and growing. And you, my friend, for watching this video, this webinar, you are green and growing. And that's the perfect place to be, because when you get ripe, when you think you know it all, that's when you begin rotting in life. So who here has felt that they've been stuck in a box, unable to see a way out, and that no matter how hard they've tried, you've been stuck? Or that you've been able to make some progress, but it feels very much like 3 steps forward and 2 steps back, or 2 steps forward and 2 steps back, or even worse, 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. I know I've felt that way in my life, stuck in a box. What if I could show you how your particular interpretation of the world is unique to your map of reality, and that your map in your mind may not actually fit the reality of what is actually happening around you? Maybe your map of reality is not serving you. Would that help you to change the way you're approaching your problems? How many people do you know sit in blame of the world around them and other people? Do you know someone who perpetually plays the victim? Is that someone you know intimately well? Is that someone you? What if I could show you a way to understand that perhaps the solution to the problem in our thinking is in our thinking and not the problem itself? In life, has it sometimes felt like a bit of a struggle, like you're really pushing against obstacles, that you're really hanging on for dear life? Are you really just struggling to hang in there in life? Has it ever felt that way? I know it's felt that way for me in the past. Has it ever felt that everything you do just seems to be a huge struggle? You know, like pushing this huge boulder uphill, you're pulling against someone and continually involved in power struggles with other people. Has it ever felt like that to you? Have you ever met a negative person? Someone who was always negative, someone who played the victim all the time, someone who blamed everyone else. It was always someone else's fault, the economy, a former business partner, a former spouse, a bad person. This person believed they were always at the mercy of the environment, the economy, or others. In contrast, have you ever met a really positive person? No matter what seemed to happen to them in their life, they would be positive. They'd take responsibility. This person would be upbeat and positive no matter what was happening around them. This kind of person you'd label an optimist. This person somehow had realized in their life that their attitude would determine their altitude. So this is what we're talking about. The map is not the territory. So in every person, there's a particular map of reality, and it's unique to every person. This is what I'm talking about with people who are perpetually pessimistic, people who are habitually victims and blame others. Ever heard that saying? You know, that story, there were 2 prisoners that shared a jail cell. Each gazed out the window each night. One saw the bars and the other saw the stars. One saw only limitation, the other saw the wonder and beauty of nature. What if both prisoners existed inside of us? What if we chose to change the map with which we saw reality? Would reality change as a result? Have you ever been faced with what seemed like an insurmountable wall in front of you? It could have been a challenge that no matter how hard you tried, you just couldn't climb over it. What if the problem was not the wall, but you're thinking about the wall? Perhaps your thinking created the wall. Let me give you some more examples. There was a man who was a captured American pilot during the Vietnam War. He was imprisoned in a tiny makeshift cell and sat in the mud and dirt for many years. He was imprisoned alongside other captured US military. Other prisoners gave up hope and quickly succumbed to malnutrition and disease. He managed to keep himself positive and optimistic. One day the war ended and he was set free. When asked how he had managed to survive when others had not, he replied that every day he had played a mental game of golf while in his jail cell. He saw himself not in the cell, but on his favourite golf course playing 18 holes of golf. He vividly imagined himself driving and putting. The day after he arrived in the USA, after he was set free, he went to the golf course and shot a perfect game. Other prisoners had seen no hope of surviving. They had struggled to take charge of their map of reality. They had a negative map of their, and thus they only saw negativity. This man is a man named Viktor Frankl, if you've heard of him. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. It was a highly published book, highly successful. He was a Jewish psychologist imprisoned in the Nazi concentration camps in World War II. He lost his wife and daughter early on. Despite all the horror going on around him, he chose to take charge of his map of reality. While some prisoners quickly gave up hope and stopped eating, he kept trying to choose a better meaning for his circumstances. He always chose to serve his fellow man and see the best in all people. He had the opportunity to escape when he was doing duties outside the camp, but he told himself, I can't escape because my friend is in there and he needs me. So he chose to return to the camp. When they asked for volunteers to care for other prisoners, he put up his hand. When digging ditches, he would often stop and look at the beautiful mountains and be amazed at creation. After the war, he came up with a type of therapy called logotherapy, which was very successful, which essentially was about people being able to expand their maps of reality by considering different things. The last of human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, the ability to choose one's own way. So he was in some horrifying circumstances and he managed to survive by taking charge of his attitude. Let me give you another example. There was once a wealthy man who invested everything he had in a huge area of land because there had been rumours of a great gold vein. He worked for months and months and hired dozens of workers and tons of machinery to excavate the ore. But he was running out of money. After millions of dollars invested and no return, he gave up. He laid off all his workers and sold the land to a farmer for a song. The farmer climbed into one of the huge excavations which the previous owner had dug. He saw an old pickaxe on the ground. For a bit of fun, he swung the pickaxe and struck the side of the hole. A whole bunch of rocks collapsed to reveal to the farmer's delight a gigantic gold vein several feet wide. The farmer hired workers and machinery to excavate the ore and became one of the richest men in the country. So I really want to congratulate you for really digging in and learning today. They say a mind stretched to new dimensions by a new concept will never go back to the same size again. And I'm certain that once you leave this webinar, you may be a person who sees people and life and reality in a completely new light with new wisdom. A mind that is stretched by new experience can never go back to its old dimensions. Oliver Wendell Holmes. So now I've got a special picture for you. This is called the Neuro-Linguistic Programming Head Picture. And it basically talks about how human beings process reality. So there's external events and information, and they are processed through a series of filters of time and space, language, memories, traits, decisions, attitudes, values, and beliefs. And then from those, after it filters through those, we create an internal representation, which leads to a state, which creates a physiology, which leads to our behavior. Now I'm going to explain that a bit more. So in this field, it's neuro-linguistic programming. It says that thousands of bits of sensory information reach our brain every second. Yet we're only able to process about 7 plus or minus 2 bits of information at a time. As a result, we are deleting most of the sensory information which comes our way. Sensory data can come to us in many different forms. Chiefly it comes to us through what we see, hear, feel, taste and smell. Imagine if we didn't filter out all the sensory data that came our way. Imagine if your brain recorded everything it saw like a video camera. You'd be overwhelmed by the sheer amount of data. The reality is that we pay attention only to that which is important to us. More importantly, we only see what we want to see. Our thinking determines what we see. Let me give you an example of this. I know that's pretty interesting information, but it's like driving a car. At first it's hard to understand, it's a bit awkward, but after a while it becomes easy. Let me give an example. Two people are walking in the bush. One sees a spider and says, "Ooh, look a cute spider." The other sees the spider and screams, "Ah, a spider!" and runs away. Both people clearly have different maps of reality in response to the same territory. So one person sees the spider and remembers their mother telling them to watch out for spiders in the bush. They also remember a time when they were 4 and a spider crawled inside their shirt when they were in bed and they nearly asphyxiated in panic. They think to themselves, "Nasty, disgusting, creepy spiders." The other sees the spider and remembers their mother saying spiders are good because they keep the flies away. They also remember a time in school when they went to the zoo and an insect specialist told them all about spiders and even let them hold a few tarantulas. They think to themselves, "Aw, a cute little spider." The first person creates the internal representation of spiders as horrible, scary and nasty, and this makes their state panic, and they run away screaming. The second person creates the internal representation of spiders as cute and harmless, and this makes their state relaxed as a result they pick up the spider. Each person's different map of reality influences their behavior. They were both looking at the same territory, the bush and the spider, but each reacted differently. So too in life. Reality is occurring outside of us, yet how we process it may be affected by our map of reality. That is why it is sometimes best to change ourselves, and then the outside world will change. A quote by Marcel Proust says, "The voyage of discovery is not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes." This can mean everything in success. The British Navy was a very competitive navy with every other navy in the world, including the French, Spanish, Dutch and Portuguese navies. Unfortunately, there was a disease called scurvy, which caused ships to lose more than half their crew to this disease. As a result, there was always difficulty in keeping ships crewed with enough trained men. In 1747, James Lind, a surgeon's mate in the British Navy, conducted dietary experiments on board ship. He found that citrus fruits prevented and cured the killer disease scurvy, which ravaged sailors. Captain Cook was one of the first ship commanders to supplement his sailors with lime rations. He sailed the world for over 3 years without a single death from scurvy. This was unprecedented. However, it took 48 years before the British Admiralty made it official policy to distribute 1 ounce of lime juice daily for each sailor. The ship's nutritional supplement of vitamin C was a factor in the British becoming the world's strongest sea power. They sailed farther than anyone else and easily defeated weakened enemies who had lost much of their crew to disease. The British sailors were referred to derisively as limeys. Have you ever heard that? Captain Cook had a map of reality which was practical, and he said, "If it works, then do it." However, the commanders in the British Navy and the other rival naval forces in other countries, however, had a map which said, "It can't be that easy. Eating citrus fruits that can stop scurvy, that's impossible." Captain Cook's map of reality led to Australia being founded by the English. Otherwise, we may have been speaking French, Portuguese or Dutch as our main language. Interesting how a map of reality can really determine your success, and it can even, in this situation, determine the colonization of an entire country. Henry Ford said, "Whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right." And what he was talking about was your map of reality. If you think you can, you will find evidence to do something, and you will find a way to achieve it. It doesn't matter what reality is happening, because that's your map. But if you think you can't, you're absolutely right also, because if your map of reality says you can't, then that's all. The only reality you're going to find is that you can't. So you've done so well getting this far, and I'm sure you're beginning to question your map of reality. Prior to this webinar, you may have been thinking that reality was set in stone. Now you can understand why some people get stuck on certain problems while others break through. Some get sick and some never recover while others do. Something happens and some get angry while others laugh. It all depends on your map of reality. So how can you apply this knowledge? First of all, you can have an awareness that whatever you're seeing in reality is not actually reality, but your interpretation of reality. Your map of reality is not actually reality. The truth is that you can choose your thoughts. You can choose whatever thoughts you want to help you. You can give a different meaning to everything based on how you think about it. That's why Henry Ford said this: whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. You could ask yourself when anything happens, what am I making this mean? Is the meaning I'm giving this helping me or hindering me? Is the meaning I'm giving this making me happy or not? If you're making a lot of meaning which is making you feel unhappy, then you have the freedom to change your thinking in order to find a more empowering meaning. Consider two different business people. They both receive the news: stock market crash. Both risk losing everything they've worked for. People are panicking around them. The market's in hysteria. The first businessman hears that news and gives it the meaning: this is the end. I have lost everything. There is no point living. And he jumps out the third-story window. The second businessman gives the news the meaning: what goes down must come up. How can I put all these fires out and survive until things turn around again? And as a result, he looks at his business, lays off 99% of his workers, closes most factories, keeps only his bare minimum of staff on. He weathers the storm, sells off some of his assets, pays all his loans from the sales, and hibernates. 2 years later, things begin turning around and he reopens the once dormant factories, rehires all the workers and more, and begins to thrive. Both business people receive the same news. Both react differently according to their maps of reality. In some situations, your map of reality can mean the difference between life or death, sadness or happiness, poverty or wealth, failure or success. So congratulations to all of you who have joined me for this webinar. You might be seeing now that there may be some inconsistencies between your map of reality and the actually how reality is. So your map is not the territory. Now, it is relatively easy with a little awareness to change your map of reality at a conscious level. The deeper problem lies with the person's subconscious map of reality. Our maps of reality are created by the following factors. Our religious beliefs. So imagine if you get a person who's a Muslim, a Buddhist, and another person who's a Christian, and you put those three people in a room. They're going to have three different views of reality based on their religious beliefs. So your religious beliefs can definitely influence the way you see the world, the way you see people, the way you see life. Your culture. Your culture can influence your map of reality. If you're born in the United States of America, you can have a very different map of reality than if you were born in Vietnam, in poverty, or whether you were born in part of Africa, in Somalia, where there was war going on and deep poverty, or whether maybe you're born in France, and if you're from a royal family, you're going to have a very different map of reality. Past trauma can influence your map of reality. So what happened to you in the past? What accidents, what experiences, what trauma from childhood? That can definitely influence your map of reality and your perceptions about life, the world, and people. Your past experiences, good and bad, can definitely influence your map of reality. If you've traveled the world extensively and you've experienced all these different cultures and spoken different languages and been through all the different environments of Earth, you've got a vastly expanded map of reality, as opposed to if you'd never left the small town that you grew up in. You're going to have a very different map of reality. Your upbringing can have an influence on your map of reality. Here's a person driving a gold Ferrari. He's only 17. So imagine if you grew up driving gold Ferraris and your parents were multi-millionaires, even billionaires. How different your map of reality would be compared to a person who grew up in a country where children, if you were a child that fossicked through rubbish in order to find, to create an income, to get food for your family. Imagine the difference between your map of reality. If your parents were divorced, that's definitely going to influence your map of reality and how you see the world. If your parents were happily married and they stayed together forever and loved each other, that's definitely going to influence your map of reality. So everyone has a unique map of reality. Are you beginning to see how everyone is different and that everyone perceives reality differently? The way you perceive things can have a tremendous effect on your life, work, and business for the better or worse. So I want to thank you for those who contributed to the pre-webinar survey, which asked you about some of the problems that you have in your life, work, and business. And thank you so much for contributing to your growth and the growth of everyone on the webinar. I wonder if I can give you tremendous value and insight into those problems today. And I wonder if I've really served you well enough to help you understand how sometimes it's your perception of reality that is the problem and not reality itself. So what if you could take charge of your reality? What if you were able to take charge of your beliefs and thinking about reality so it worked for you? So you consciously drove the bus instead of your bus being driven by your fears, insecurities, worries, irrational emotions, and so on. To what degree is your past affecting your present? What if you could set yourself free from the past completely so that you were able to be genuinely happy, joyous, and peaceful in every moment? What if you were able to solve every problem that faced you? What if you were ready to change your life and to begin healing your map reality so that you can enjoy the happiness, success, health, and wealth that you deserve? Who's driving your bus? This is Roger McDonald. Thank you so much for tuning into the webinar. By all means, if you're wanting more information, check out my website, rogermcdonald.net, and also give me a call on 0457 569 060. Have a fantastic day. Please check out my Facebook page, Roger McDonald, World's Greatest Coach, and click like because you'll get access to all the latest videos that I do before everyone else. So you get so much free stuff by accessing that page. Fantastic. Have an awesome day. Thank you so much for tuning in.